Okay, welcome to the latest in the series of webcasts looking at a wide variety of topics of interest. And today I am delighted to introduce Steph Webb, with whom I'll be discussing her reasons behind her quite extraordinary methods of fundraising for AMEND this year. If you've ever watched our patient experience films about MEN1, you will probably recognize Steph from these, as she kindly volunteered to take part in that project. But most recently, Steph has begun an extensive running fundraiser for the charity. So we'll look at how, with a rare endocrine disease, she's gone about training for that, as well as how it's all going. So welcome, Steph, and great to see you and talk to you.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me to do this.
So first of all, let's get some background. And can you tell us a little bit about your endocrine condition for those people who don't know, and how your condition affects you day to day generally?
Okay, so I have something called MEN1, multiple endocrine neoplasia type 1. So there's multiple types, but I've got type 1. It predominantly impacts people in the pituitary glands, the pancreas, and parathyroid glands. And I was originally diagnosed around 10 years ago now because I had elevated calcium levels and elevated parathyroid levels. I've had a total parathyroidectomy since then, so I'm now calcium dependent and have to take calcium daily. So I'm constantly monitoring that to make sure that I'm always topped up, so to speak. And yeah, that's the biggest way it impacts me. I do have a pancreatic lesion as well and liver lesions. So it's something that I'm on watch and wait for those, but I've got to be prepared and be aware that something could happen at any point.
Mm. So your calcium levels are the thing that are kept a close eye on at the moment with regards to your day-to-day life.
Absolutely. So because I take calcium on a daily basis, it's one of those I have to make sure I'm not overdoing it because you don't want to have too much calcium, and you also want to make sure that you have enough. I've experienced when you don't have enough and it's not pleasant. It can be life-threatening. Um, and it's painful, to be perfectly frank, as well. So it's one of those you want to make sure that your levels are on point at all times as much as you possibly can. You
Yeah.
have a little bit of leeway and flexibility in what that range can be, but a lot of the times once you're outside that scope, it's hard to get back in that range. So you want to make sure that you are within that range at all times.
Yeah.
A lot of times I have to make sure that if I'm starting to become symptomatic, so if I start getting tingling with my fingers, I have to make sure I have calcium nearby that I can take at any point. And it's not just the calcium that you can get over the counter that might do a little bit of a job to try and tide me over, but actually I need extra strength calcium that's specifically formulated and designed to work with my body and my condition.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a little bit of a juggling act, but you decided to do quite an extraordinary fundraiser for AMEND this year. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about your running goals this year?
So it's it's spiraled, basically, is what's happened. I started running last year, and when I say last year, I mean the very end of last year. So I think I started running consistently probably in October is when I really started, and I was doing maybe a couple miles a week. So it wasn't even quote unquote that much because it's different for everybody. But for me, that was quite a lot. And it was one of those, I thought, you know what? Let me try and do this. I used to play sport when I was younger and all of that. And I missed having some kind of community that I could do. I mean, I'm American, and you can tell by my accent, but I live in England. So it's quite nice to have found a bit of a community by taking up running. I wanted to participate and challenge myself. So I thought, hey, I'll sign up for a 10K. And then I saw that AMEND advertised that there's places for the Great North Run. And I thought, that's like the largest half marathon in the world, I think, something along either in England or the world, something like that. And I thought, how amazing would it be if I was able to do that, and what an achievement I would feel in myself for being able to do that. So I thought, I'll do that. Okay, let me contact AMEND and see if I can have one of their places. Well, I was able to get one of the places, and the fundraising goal was £200. By the time I had actually heard back from AMEND, I had already decided, you know what, I live in Leeds. Leeds is local. Let me try the first half marathon doing the Leeds half marathon. And that way, if I'm able to do Great North Run, I'll know at that point. And then I realized there's the Leeds 10K as well. And I thought, oh, that could be really good training for the Great North Run. Okay, let me sign up for that. So while all these signups were going on, I then heard back that I got the place from AMEND and thought, well, nobody's going to donate to up to £200 for me to do this one race when I've already done a half marathon at that point, or I've already done a couple 10Ks at that point. So let me just dedicate all my races. Anything I do this year, I've decided to dedicate to AMEND and always wear the AMEND logo on me at all times, just so that I'm constantly raising awareness and hopefully raising funds as well. And I thought 2024, why not? Why not shoot for the stars and go for trying to raise £2,024? So that's kind of how it's all developed. I'm about 35% of the way there. I'm not sure that I'll hit my target, but you know what? You got to reach for the stars. And the more awareness you raise, the more money you raise, it actually impacts me directly. And I appreciate that. So anything I can do, I want to.
That's absolutely fantastic. And you really have jumped in literally with both feet, haven't you, into the whole running and fundraising sort of sphere for this year, which is extraordinary. So thank you very much for supporting AMEND as well throughout the year. And I hope maybe people will see this and be inspired, if not to get running, but to donate to your fundraiser as well, which would be amazing. So yeah,
I'd welcome that, absolutely. So
yeah,
I appreciate the opportunity that AMEND has given me to actually do this. So not just because of the Great North Run, or I'm also doing London 10K on behalf of AMEND and AMEND Place as well, but actually the support that AMEND provides me through community involvement events, through we have a local meetup here in Leeds and Harrogate that I've met some other people with my condition. I've met some other people with similar conditions, and it just, that's what drives me. And that's a huge motivation for, it's my way of trying to say thank you and my way of trying to give back as well.
yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, it's another little family, isn't it, really? And it's always nice to do something like that. So, but my next question is, when you're thinking about your calcium and your condition generally, has that affected how you've gone about training and how you do the runs?
Absolutely. So because you have that fine balance of how much calcium you need or having too much, one of the things that you do as a runner, especially, I consider this endurance running for me because I've never really done this mileage before. The more you run, the more electrolytes you lose. And obviously calcium has a big part to do with that, as does magnesium. And actually, when you take calcium, you need to balance with magnesium, you need to balance with vitamin D. So you're constantly trying to play that balancing act. And when you're trying to top up with electrolytes, you have to be careful what ingredients they have in it. So any kind of fueling I take on, so something that's heavily carb related, I need to make sure that it doesn't then have additives that might impact other aspects. So then I also have to worry about what my hydration looks like. If I am taking on electrolytes, does that have then too much if I've just taken my medicine before a run? So it's yeah, it's quite impactful, really. You have to do a lot of mental mass trying to work it all out, especially mid race or mid event. It's not fun. So you
Yeah,
try and pre-plan all that in advance.
yeah. But you're happy to sort of maybe stop part way and sort of think about it and adjust what you're taking in at any point.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the safest way of doing it and make sure, but it does mean I might have a slower time than someone else my age, my ability might be able to do. I might have to actually physically stop and go, I can't read that because I'm getting older, but actually, look, okay, so that has that. I need to make sure I have this. Like I said, I do try and pre-plan a lot of it so I'm not out there in the midst of a run, but it does mean I typically also have to carry more with me when I'm out. So I like to have a little, what I would consider pocket size store of calcium with me at all times. And sometimes in my running vest, you can hear it go clink, 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 clink. It's really annoying if you're on a long run, but it's making sure that I'm putting myself in the best possible position I can be should something go wrong. So I'm
Yeah.
always, I wear a medical badge as well. So if I were to have some kind of incident, it happens sometimes. If I were to have an episode or something, at least I would have a medical badge on my bracelet. So if an emergency service had to look at me, they'd immediately see that, okay, this person's calcium dependent. We need to check her levels. We need to make sure she's okay. But
Yeah.
it's those sort of things that I have to worry about that not other people do. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I I fully think that everybody should have some kind of medical ID, even if it's just for their in case of emergency. Absolutely. But
Mm.
then when it comes to the typical mental juggling of the mind maths game of electrolytes and balancing, everybody has to go through that. But not everybody has to go to it through it with the same extent that I do. So it's the
Mm.
same as everybody else, but plus 10, if
Yeah.
that makes any sense at all.
So yeah, I mean, I guess it's just being as prepared as you can be, so you can just go and do it, as they say, you know.
Absolutely. It's one of those annoying things as well where I don't feel comfortable not being in a running vest. I don't necessarily always want to wear a hydration vest, but I'm a slow runner. If I'm on a race and they pack up the hydration station and I haven't got there, I have to be prepared. I have to have something on me at all times. So I have to have that vest. It could save my life.
Mm. Well, I did read somewhere recently that if you're running a 10K, then you're already in the top sort of 5%
Well, thank you.
of all runners anyway, as long as you finish, kind of thing. So
Thank you.
I think it doesn't matter, you know, how quickly or how slowly you go. It's the taking part, but also it's the challenge, isn't it, of getting to the end.
Absolutely. I mean, I've joined a running community, I think I alluded to earlier, and one of the things that they talk about, it's a fairly inclusive group. One of the things that they try and drill into is it's about lines, not time. So it's about making sure you cross that finish line in the healthy way that you can cross it
Mm.
rather than trying to overdo it and overexert yourself and then you don't even finish.
Yeah, very sensible advice, and
Yeah,
particularly when you've got a condition as well, it needs to be taken into account. So, I
absolutely.
mean, are there any days when you go, not today?
Every day. I mean, it's one of those, the only reason I even started running in the first place, if I back up that far, I decided I wanted if so I was having some symptoms that were I don't know how to explain it really, but effectively I was having some symptoms that could indicate that one of the tumors has grown. And because of that, I thought, oh, I need to be careful about what I eat, what I do, because if I have to have surgery, I want to be in the best position I'm in if I have to go under for any reason. And because of that, it kind of spurred me on. Thankfully, everything seems stable, and it was potentially due to over medicating on something else. But actually, it's one of those, I started enjoying it, but the only reason I go out there is because I know I need to do it. So it was one of those, eventually I have found a love for it now, but it's still hard. I mean, I'm not motivated to get out. The thing, I guess you could say I'm motivated because I'm accountable. And one of the ways I'm accountable to AMEND because I've taken on this fundraiser. I've announced it to the world. I kind of need to do it. I'm accountable to myself to make sure that I am staying in the best position I can be should I need to go into surgery. I'm accountable mentally as well because I know my mental health is better by doing this as well because running actually helps clear the mind. It helps ground you. And I think I'm putting myself in a much better position by doing these things. And I think that's what I'm not motivated, but I am at the same time. It's what gets me out there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think you've got a huge amount of motivation, even if you probably don't feel that you do. But you know, it does take a lot of guts to just get out, get your running shoes on, and get out the door, doesn't it? Really. So
Thank you.
yeah, yeah. So you've got well, you've already done one event, the Canal Centre 10K. Was that Leeds? I think it
It
was.
was a local canal canter, yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
that particular group of, I guess, race providers. I don't know how you'd actually describe them, to be honest. Again, I'm still fairly new to running. Um, they put on several events throughout the year. So they do 5, 10 K events. They do half marathon, marathon, ultra marathon. no desire to do a marathon or ultra marathon. I'm slow enough with my half marathon and I'm good with that for now. But because it was just pretty much on my doorstep, I thought, you know what, let me give it a whirl. That'll be my first one. It'll be kind of a teaser event. And yeah, here I am, signed
Yeah.
up for 7 more events throughout the year, possibly more.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it kind of
that's like,
spurred me on, at least.
oh, I think it's utterly fantastic. And your next one is the Leeds Half Marathon on the 12th of May. Is that right?
That's correct. It's my first ever attempt at a half marathon. I've never done the distance, so I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it. And apparently I chose the worst marathon or half marathon to do because it's one of the hilliest.
Oh no.
So I not only have the challenge of actually hitting the mileage, but I have the challenge of doing it at almost 200 meters throughout the course as well. So
Okay. Okay.
quite a
Yeah.
lot of elevation.
So if anyone's free on the 12th of May and wants to stand on the hillsides and shout you all the way to the top, then you'll be
I'll
pleased to
gladly welcome that support. Yeah.
see.
And please donate as well. Because that also, I think that's one thing that actually, going back to motivation, one thing that has kept me going is actually seeing that, not that people are drawn to my story, but that people care enough to actually, I mean, things are tight these days for a lot of people. We're in a cost of living crisis still. And the fact that people are actually donating their hard-earned money to support me, I'd say, actually, going back to motivation, that's what motivates me. That's what keeps me going. That's what makes me think this is all worth it.
Yeah, 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 utterly fantastic. Brilliant effort. So if anyone's watching this or listening to this and thinks maybe I should give it a go, beyond getting a really good pair of trainers,
Yes,
where
that is so
where
important.
do you think they should start? I mean, obviously it's not going to be appropriate for everybody with all the diseases. It depends very much on your own situation. But for someone who is perhaps able to do this, where do you think they should sort of start?
The best piece of advice I could give is to run walk. So if you run, you're a runner. If you run walk, you're a runner. Any movement you do that's more than a walk is technically defined as being running. So I think anyone that wants to do anything, start slow. It's absolutely fine to go 18-minute mile pace. That's absolutely okay to do. I started off, I think, at 16, 17-minute mile pace, and I've already brought that down significantly just by consistency and training.
Yeah.
And if someone actually is interested in this, give it a go. Why not? There's nothing that would hurt you by giving it a go. So
Mm.
it's try it slow, do what your body allows you to do, and do what you want to do as well. Don't try and just push it because that's what everybody else does or that's what you expect you should be doing. Do what works for you.
Yeah, yeah. Brilliant, very wise words. So, yeah, thanks so much, Steph, for talking with me today. And I know I won't be alone in wishing you lots of success for your upcoming 7 events, maybe more. And thank you so much for everything that you've done for Amend and are doing for Amend. It's hugely appreciated. So, thank you.
Thank you. And again, thank you for the opportunity to even participate in one event, let alone allow me to fly the flag for the entire year. So thank you.